A waitress slaps a police officer in the middle of a busy restaurant. What happens next will leave you speechless. Sounds like something out of a movie, right? But this isn't fiction. This shocking incident has made headlines worldwide, and the story behind it is even more unexpected than you think. It all started as an ordinary night that quickly spiraled into something unimaginable. What began as a small disagreement between a waitress and a police officer turned into a moment that shocked everyone in the room and eventually the world. In this video, you'll learn exactly how this tense encounter unfolded, why the officer's response has left everyone talking, and the surprising twist that no one saw coming. Trust me, you won't believe how this story ends. Make sure you watch till the very end to uncover the shocking truth. You'll want to know what really happened and how it left a lasting impact on both the waitress, the officer, and everyone who witnessed it. Welcome to Craze TV, where we bring you the most intriguing, jaw-dropping stories from around the world. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story that keeps you on the edge of your seat. The incident took place at a local restaurant in a small town, tucked away from the hustle and bustle of city life. It was just an ordinary evening, the kind where regulars came in for their usual meals and the staff went about their routines. The air was filled with the clatter of dishes and the hum of conversation. But something in the air was about to change. A young waitress in her early 20s was working her shift. She had been serving the tables, smiling and moving quickly between the kitchen and her customers. Her name was Sarah, and she was used to dealing with all sorts of customers. But tonight, something was different. The police officer, a mid-league man named Officer Roberts, had just come in after finishing his patrol. He sat down at a table by the window, clearly tired, expecting a quiet meal. At first, everything seemed normal. Sarah took his order, and the two exchanged some brief friendly pleasantries. But tension started to build as the evening wore on. What started as a routine interaction quickly took a turn. Officer Roberts became visibly frustrated. His order wasn't to his liking, and the small mistakes in his service seemed to annoy him more than usual. Sarah tried to keep her composure, apologizing for the minor errors, but the officer's attitude was beginning to escalate. His sharp words and impatience began to rattle her, making her feel more uncomfortable with each passing minute. And then things snapped. What had been a minor disagreement suddenly spiraled into an outburst that neither of them expected. In the heat of the moment, the situation reached a breaking point, and Sarah, feeling disrespected, slapped the officer right across the face. The room went silent. The other patrons looked up in shock, unsure of what had just happened. Sarah stood frozen, her hands shaking as she realized the enormity of what she had done. Officer Roberts, however, sat there for a moment, processing the shock of being struck. This was no ordinary confrontation. What happened next would change everything. It all began as a minor disagreement over the service. Witnesses later described how Officer Roberts had been complaining about the delay in receiving his food. At first his tone was polite, but there was a noticeable edge to his words. Sarah, trying to remain calm, reassured him that his order would be out soon. But the officer's irritation grew with every passing minute. He began to make sharp remarks about the wait time, his frustration bubbling over, as he seemed to take each little issue more personally than expected. Things quickly escalated when the officer made a comment that seemed to push Sarah too far. "Maybe you should spend less time chatting with your friends and more time doing your job," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. It was a simple remark, but for Sarah, it was a breaking point. She had been juggling multiple tables and trying to do her best. The words felt like a personal attack. In a moment of frustration, Sarah snapped. Without thinking, she slapped the officer across the face. The sound of the slap echoed throughout the restaurant, immediately drawing everyone's attention. A gasp filled the air, and for a brief moment, everything seemed to freeze. The customers around them sat in stunned silence, their eyes wide with disbelief. The staff behind the counter stopped what they were doing, all staring at the scene unfolding before them. No one moved. No one knew what would happen next. It was as if time had come to a halt. The officer sat frozen in his chair, his hand gently touching his cheek, trying to process what had just occurred. The room held its breath, unsure of how this confrontation would play out. Instead of reacting aggressively, Officer Roberts did something that no one expected. He didn't leap out of his chair, nor did he shout or make any threats. Instead, he sat there for a moment, rubbing his cheeks slowly, his eyes fixed on Sarah. The tension in the room was thick as everyone waited for his next move. Would he arrest her? Would he escalate the situation further? But to everyone's surprise, he did neither. He remained calm, almost eerily composed. After a brief silence, he quietly stood up, his movements deliberate. "I'm not going to arrest you," he said, his voice firm but calm. "This doesn't need to go any further." His response shocked everyone around him. The onlookers, the staff, and even Sarah herself were left speechless. The officer's decision to handle the situation with such restraint was a sharp contrast to the tension that had been building moments before. What's more shocking? Instead of raising his voice or trying to make an example of Sarah, Officer Roberts chose to de-escalate the situation. He didn't demand that she be thrown out, nor did he try to retaliate in any way. He simply asked her to calm down and assured her that there was no need for things to get any worse. His calmness in the face of such an outburst left everyone in the room stunned. The officer had just proven that sometimes the most powerful response isn't one of aggression, but one of restraint and understanding. As soon as word spread about the incident, social media erupted. It didn't take long for the story to go viral, with videos and photos quickly circulating across platforms. People couldn't believe what they had just heard. Comments flooded in from all over the world, with users expressing their shock and disbelief at what had happened. Many praised Officer Roberts for his calmness and restraint in such a tense moment. "A true professional," one commenter wrote. Others agreed, calling the officer's decision to stay composed an example of how to handle conflict in the most difficult situations. The general consensus online was one of admiration for his ability to defuse the situation rather than escalate it, especially considering the fact that he had been physically struck in front of a crowd. However, not everyone was focused on the officer's actions. Some were more surprised by the fact that a simple slap from a waitress could spark such a huge reaction. "It's just a slap. Why all the fuss?" one user questioned. Others pointed out how rare it was to see an officer respond with such restraint, which made the whole event feel even more significant. It was a slap, yes, but it was also a powerful moment that spoke volumes about how we handle conflict, authority, and respect in society today. The world had been thrown a curveball, and people weren't sure whether to focus on the slap itself or the surprising reaction that followed. After the incident, Officer Roberts took a moment to reflect on what had happened. When he spoke about the altercation, his words were measured, calm, and surprisingly insightful. "Violence only breeds more violence," he said, looking directly into the camera during a brief interview. "In situations like this, reacting with aggression doesn't solve anything, just makes things worse." He went on to explain that his decision to remain calm wasn't just about the moment itself, but about setting an example. "I didn't want to escalate the situation. I wanted to show that patience and understanding can go a long way in resolving conflict," he shared. His calm response wasn't just about handling the incident, but about teaching others how to manage tension in a productive way. His words resonated with many, making people stop and think about how we handle conflict in our daily lives. "It's easy to let anger take control," the officer admitted. "But it's far more difficult to stay composed and find a peaceful resolution." His message was clear: we can all make choices in how we react, and sometimes the strongest response is the one that chooses calm over chaos. His reflections on the incident left a lasting impact, sparking discussions on social media and within communities about the power of patience in a world that often favors quick reactions and harsh responses. In the aftermath of the incident, the situation was resolved quickly, yet its impact lingered. The waitress Sarah was let go without facing any charges. Despite the physical altercation, the officer made it clear that he did not want the situation to escalate further. No arrests were made, and no legal action was taken against her. The restaurant decided to let the incident pass, choosing not to involve law enforcement any further, as the matter had already been handled on the spot. Officer Roberts returned to his regular duties, leaving the restaurant without any more fuss. It seemed like just another day, but in reality, the moment had already made waves far beyond the small town. The story quickly spread with people across the globe discussing the unexpected turn of events. The calmness and restraint shown by the officer in such a charged situation became a symbol of how conflict could be managed peacefully. Locally, people praised the officer's actions, saying it was a reminder of how patience can defuse even the most tense of situations. Globally, the incident sparked a larger conversation about how authority figures handle conflict and whether a different approach could lead to better outcomes in difficult circumstances. What had started as a heated moment in a small restaurant soon turned into a lesson in patience and understanding, resonating far beyond the original location. In a world where tensions often rise, this story serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes the most unexpected responses can have the biggest impact. Officer Roberts' calm and thoughtful reaction to an escalating situation shows us that patience, understanding, and restraint can make all the difference even in the most heated moments. His choice to de-escalate rather than retaliate proves that sometimes the strongest response is the one that refuses to give in to anger. So what would you have done if you were in the officer's shoes? Would you have reacted with the same level of calm, or would you have handled the situation differently? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more captivating and thought-provoking content, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Craze TV. Stay tuned for more incredible stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Please be aware that this story is a work of fiction and not based on real events. Any similarities to actual people or situations are purely coincidental. The purpose of this video is to entertain and provoke thoughtful discussions on conflict resolution and patience in tense situations. Thank you for watching.